All right, we are recording.
Okay, so our book was the Deviant War, and our next slide has our topic on.
I'll help you out here just real quick. It's Deviant's War.
Oh, sorry.
It's one of the weird things about not teaching in person. You don't hear me say the word.
It's the summary of the book. The book dives into the untold story of Frank Kameny and the gay rights movement. Okay, I didn't move this. And the gay rights movement in the United States. The book highlights Kamey's transformation from a victim of discrimination to a prominent activist. Kamey's battle took him to the forefront of the struggle for gay rights, leading him to co-found the Medicine Society of Washington, one of the first gay rights organizations in the United States. He advocated for the decriminalization of homosexuality and tirelessly fought against discrimination, not only within the government, but also in the society at large. The issue that we will be discussing today is discrimination in the workplace, specifically in the school systems. Discrimination can affect someone not only physically, but also mentally. Discrimination could lead to social isolation, poverty, unemployment, which is why we're now going to talk about some solutions against discrimination. What's going
on? Sorry for the jet in the background. I live by like the base. Yeah, it's loud. So for our first solution, we have educate and teach students more about the LGBTQ history. So in order for history to not repeat itself, we need to educate our generations to come. And when people are educated at a young age, it becomes more normalized and it creates a safer and more welcoming environment for students. And the LGBTQ rights are now becoming a major part of the United States culture and politics. So if we introduce them at a younger age, it'll help them not be like rushed into it when they're older. And for example, the Fair Education Act in California mandates schools to spread positive images of gay people.
So for our next solution, we want to educate employees and school staff on diversity principles. So schools should have mandatory diversity and inclusion training for teachers, faculty, and staff. But then they also should have specific training for LGBTQ and gender inclusive professional development skills. And school professionals should be trained on how to handle complaints of discrimination and harassment, as well as how they can educate students on diversity and inclusion.
I don't know what happened to our third
It was
solution.
a third solution, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw you had one on
Okay,
your.
I don't know what happened to it.
Hold on. Yeah. Yeah, it was just on here.
Try to hit, if under edit and view, that arrow to the left. Maybe something happened to it.
Yeah.
Yes. Because I had it when I was just on it, because you can see me on the conclusion and it was just on here.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do, honestly.
Do you remember what your third solution was?
What was presenting there? Who had the third solution?
Sorry, I have it pulled up on mine. It has the third solution on mine, so I can just read it if
Okay,
Oh,
that's
there it is.
fine.
Yeah.
there it is. Okay.
Did it pop up? Cool. Okay. So I was solution number 3, and mine was the Title IX Civil Rights Act. The Title IX protects students from being discriminated against in the school system. Students cannot be denied certain services or funding due to race, color, or national origin. This is only for public schools that receive funding for education and programming. Filing a complaint with the federal agency that provides funding for your school if you believe that you're being discriminated against. Some examples of this are discrimination based on race or religion, segregation within schools, and denial of language services to English learners.
I believe solution number 1 is the best solution to educate and teach students more about the LGBTQ history. I believe it's about raising awareness, and teaching the younger generation will only lead to a better future for present members and future members of the LGBTQ community. Deviant's War is a great book to read in order to learn about the history of gay rights and the struggle that have happened in order for the LGBTQ community to get more rights in the United States. Discrimination in school systems happens more frequently than we think. There are a lot of resources that are just not easily accessible for people that need to make discrimination against them known. We need to have more programs to teach students, faculty, and staff, as well as parents, on discrimination and on being gender inclusive. Thank you.
The solution that I think is best would probably be the first one as well. I think that we really don't teach a lot in schools about LGBT community and just diversity in general. So it really needs to be pushed out there more for students to learn about.
I also agree. I feel like when we're introducing the younger generations sooner, then it's more normalized, and they don't, because when you teach it like in high school, I feel like they already have a certain opinion on it, and it may not be as like they may have opinions on it because of their parents. And I feel like when they're younger, they're just learning their own opinions on things.
For me, going to school to being an educator, I think solution 2 is very important. I know as a teacher, I want my students to feel safe in their classroom, and having that extra training will not only educate me on things that I might not know about my students, but also letting them know that I am by their side and that I support them no matter what other people in the schools may think, their friends, their classmates, just letting them know that I'm there to support them and I have the resources if needed.
All right. All right, so now one of the things that and this is one of the things I'm learning about teaching these online on Zoom. One of the things that we're missing with the deliberative forum is the actual deliberation. And so now what I'll do is I'll give you a chance to kind of go back and do some of that. And so if you want to go back to solution 1 on your slides, this is where you kind of, as a team, it's not so much anything that has to be formalized, but this is your opportunity to like have a conversation on what this means. What are the pros of it? What are the cons of it? Like, how does this help? How does this potentially take away from something else? And then this is where you like bring in examples, some of the research that you did, bring in examples, especially from the book, things like that. And so we'll start there and then we'll go through the solutions. Sound good? All right.
I think for solution number 1, so like educating and teaching students, it's something that's really important, but it's also very controversial right now with parents and just a big pushback. And so we really need to like prioritize it, to become educated at a more younger age within schools.
I agree. Oh, sorry.
You got it.
I agree when it comes to this solution. Like Claire said, that it could be very controversial for people who are not allies or do not support this community, and even parents who feel like their kids are being subjected to this material too soon or too young. But I feel like if it's done correctly and done in a inclusive language, that it could be in favor for these students without having the severe backlash that we're seeing today.
Yeah, I believe the only problem when it comes to introducing like the LGBTQ community to like younger people is are they going to be able to have a good understanding of it? I think they need to just take it step by step and like introduce it to them like gradually as they get older.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. It could be hard for them to really like grasp the idea of it, and their parents are also going to be a big factor in it on what they want their children to be learning about, and it could be very controversial.
I can go. So like I said before, going to school to be an educator, I feel like this is very, very, very important for these trainings. I know that people, even in the small town of Farmville, are not very trained on these matters. And I feel like a lot of things could be fixed if they were trained on these, and schools would feel safer for people that are a part of this community because they know that they have someone who has been trained to handle these professionally and has the knowledge to help them if they need it.
Yeah, I feel like a con to this would be like the teachers not agreeing and not thinking that they should teach it, or because they like grew up in like an older generation and where it wasn't like normalized for them, so they find it not as like relevant, I guess, for them.
Yeah, I agree with Cassie, but I'm also on one point, I'm like, they are a teacher and they have to look out for their students. So even if it's something that they have to learn, and it's a lot harder to learn as you get older, that's why teaching it to students is so much better, because they grow up learning that way. But teachers should be prepared to handle any situation that could come up like this.
With the teachers being prepared to handle situations like that, I think it's only gonna make students more comfortable to come out and speak out on them being discriminated. Basically, yeah.
For this one, so when I was like reading a lot about Title IX, it's all public schools, and then it's a lot to do with the funding of how much programs we get. And I feel like right now we're already seeing, like, at least I know in my county, we have Title I schools where they're underfunded. And I really like, although we say we don't have that, there definitely is like different stuff like that throughout different counties.
Yeah, I feel like the bigger cities are the ones that are mainly a lot more funded than the smaller, like little counties. So that could be definitely an issue.
All right, so any last thoughts on this? So this is Title VI, not Title IX. I think you got the basics of it correct. It's just you kept calling it Title IX. Title IX is the one about Well, it's equality. It's about equality, not so much as discrimination, but it's all right. So, yeah, no, it's discrimination in the workplace. Definitely thinking about school systems, thinking about things that happen with that. So you're talking about discrimination in the workplace, but you're more specifically talking about how do we approach this? We're going to teach it early. So that's kind of your overarching solution is like, well, let's teach these things early so that people then don't discriminate later because they have a better understanding of different cultures, different people, different groups and things like that. So it's a reasonable solution to think about future things, right? So what do you all think about like when Cervini here is talking about Frank Kameny, right? And all the legal stuff that he had to go through, right? Because you did bring in like a legal thing here in the end to discuss, but think about how that even connects to this book, right? So do you want to speak to that at all? Like how were some of the stories and the things that Frank Kameny like kind of had going on, and not even just Frank Kameny, just like going over how all these things interweave together, right? So then how the connectivity of it, right? Of all these stories lead to what we have now. So. Think about this. Here's your question, right? That very first question. How has this affected your individual lives, your friends, your family, whoever, like yourself, like is connected in? How does it affect you?
For me, I'm not like majoring in education, so I don't know a ton about, but I do have a lot of family members that are teachers, and so they definitely, I've heard from them talking about how hard it is when they see kids that are being discriminated against and that in the school systems, and that a lot of teachers just aren't prepared to respond to that effectively, and so it ends up turning into a bigger thing than it should be.
I just kind of had an example. So at my high school, we had what was called Safe Haven, and it was like 5 or 6 teachers who you knew were allies or had like the basic training, I guess you could say, that kids were able to go to when they did feel like they were being discriminated against and they felt like they could have a safe person to talk to. But that it was like very, very small. Not a lot of people knew about it because they try to make it as quiet as possible just for safety purposes and other people finding out who may not have been supportive of this group and stuff like that. It was started by a group of students and it was 2 teachers who started it. And then by the end of the school year, there were 6 of them. I'm not sure if they still do it at my high school, but we did start something. But I mean, it's a way to get the ball rolling, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my high school also did have something like that, but the teachers weren't like very open with it. I don't know. I feel like in my high school, I wasn't very like aware of this like topic. I mean, I knew about it, but I wasn't like, I don't know, as aware as I am now. So it's hard for me to like pick these different situations on it, but
For me, I grew up in Cameroon, and the LGBTQ is not something people talk about.
Mhm.
And so when I moved to New York, it was very different. Like in high school, a lot of people were talking about it. So I saw more people that were part of the LGBTQ come out and like speak about it and feel more comfortable with themselves. So that's just been a big difference for me.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like place, right? Place has a difference. And you'd even mentioned that with regards to the school systems, right? It's
Yes.
for budgetary purposes, who's living in the areas, because even in big cities, keep in mind, you have very underfunded schools. And it's all trickled down from systemic racism. It really is, a lot of it comes from that. But it's also like the control of the narrative, right? So think about what's going down in Florida right now. They're trying to control the narrative about what's being taught in school, and they keep getting legal battles up against, like, well, we have this, but no. And so you've got legal battle after legal battle over just what can we teach kids? What can we do? Even in Virginia with the bathrooms, right? Bathrooms in schools, pronouns, all these things, names, out, being able to, like, teachers can essentially out students to their parents who aren't comfortable doing that. There's a reason why kids aren't out to their parents, and it's their own business, right? But there are laws, and one of them is in Virginia right now that it's being fought against, right? But it's very much you can out a kid to their parents. Oh, so and so came to school and addressed today, and I just wanted you to know that. It's like, maybe there's a reason they didn't, like, leave the house in that, and then they changed. And it does become, I don't know how you all feel about it, like with your own high school experiences, but in high school you spend what, like 8 to 10 hours a day in the same building with all these people, students, teachers. And so it does become almost like its own little community, right, in terms of what's going on. And so it's one that you can't escape, just like at work. So it's a good connection there that y'all have. Any last thoughts? We're good. All right, so I'm gonna stop recording.